Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is a post-2018 successful hunt with Damian Arellano from Arellano, Colorado. And he and I worked together at CI Livet with a gentleman named Dan Bowers. But that's another story. But anyway, Damian has got a great story for his post-2018 because he took his first mature whitetail this year. Damian, welcome to the show and share the story.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bruce. You know, what a great opportunity for me to be on your show and share the passion of the great outdoors. And I'm an avid hunter, and I've got to go back a little ways. I mean, everybody, I saw your website and how you talked about your youth and how important that is. And that's really the foundation and how we get to where we are today. And I got to thank my dad and my brother for teaching me the passion of the great outdoors and how that evolved as well with other friends, you know, and that continues. I've been friends for about 10 years now, maybe a little bit longer, with two gentlemen by the name of Manny and Brett Hemmerling. They're a father and son. And these guys have taken my skill and my knowledge and my passion for the great outdoors to another level, just being in their company. These guys are world-class hunters, and everything that they do it right. And they've educated me how to become a better hunter. And I love that. And that's exactly where I want to be in the world of hunting, is continuing to learn, continuing to hone my skills and get better at what I do. And this whitetail hunt rolled around last year in 2017. Unfortunately, there were 4 guys that were scheduled to go on this hunt. One of the guys couldn't make it for 2018. So I got invited. I happened to be at the right place at the right time. These guys were having dinner, and I raised my hand up and said, I've always wanted to do a whitetail hunt. What an amazing opportunity. I want in. So they allowed me to join them, and this was just fantastic. But the success of this hunt actually started, you know, at the beginning of the year when I knew that I was going to be going on this. Started to study OnX maps. Started to study Google Earth, understand the lay of the land. Those are key as well to leading to success. And also understanding the animal that we're hunting as well. Hunting a whitetail is definitely different than hunting a mule deer or hunting an elk in Colorado. There's a few things that are still consistent with that. I mean, obviously with your shooting skills, but keep in mind, there's a lot of times that with deer and elk, mule deer and elk, I've got a lot of time to study these animals. Everything and all my research that I found out about whitetail is they are very skittish. They're not going to give you a second opportunity. They're going to move on you. And that's exactly what I discovered on this hunt is you have one opportunity to make a good shot. Otherwise, that animal's going to be on the move. Your next shot's going to be on a run. Do you understand exactly what kind of lead you need to give this animal in order to make a successful shot? So a lot of things were going through my mind and coming into play on this hunt. And on our journey out there, I had a chance to pick the brains of Manny and Brett and what I should be looking for on this hunt, what kind of animal I should be able to harvest. And this was only their third whitetail hunt. And they kept saying, hey, wait until the third guy shows up, or the fourth guy, I should say. This guy has been hunting whitetail a lot longer than any of us, and he understands it. Plus, he's a taxidermist. And you may know him. I know he knows you because I talked to him about you, and his name is Greg Brumfield. He owns a taxidermist company out in Grand Junction, Colorado, and it's called Brumfield Taxidermy. guy's a world-class taxidermist. He's a national American champion, best in sculpting. He's a world-class judge. He makes the sculpts as well and sells those to other taxidermists. And being able to pull from that knowledge and that skill just really got me thinking of what type of animal I want to harvest. And keep in mind, all these guys are very picky about harvesting the right type of animal. We're not out there just for the meat. We're out there for the quality of the hunt and the camaraderie that comes along with that, and being able to harvest a mature whitetail. So I studied exactly what to look for. We were able to get some game cams as well, and had those laid out. We were able to study some of the animals that were coming into the plots, and have some good working knowledge of what was on this land. And this is definitely different than Colorado, because for us here in Colorado, what we do is we typically backpack into the wilderness. We're backpacking in anywhere between 5 and 8 miles. As a matter of fact, this year on the deer hunt, on our elk hunt, on the elk hunt, we backpacked in 5 miles to hunt, shot the animal another mile away from camp. So you can imagine how that was on that hunt, having to debone it and pack it all out. Took us 3 trips in and out. Well, I mean, just totally different. And then you go out, hunt out east, and what you're hunting on is private land. So you have to make sure that you have good quality land that you're going to be on. And that was key for all of us, is making sure that we're getting quality land to hunt on and lay the land where we're going to be at, and what we're going to be looking for as well. So
the camera's
pretty for all of us.
Tilt your camera back. There you go.
Yeah, it fell on me. I had a phone call coming in. I apologize on that one.
Yeah, that happens. Technical difficulties. Nobody. No other.
Exactly. So that's that's a lot of what went into it for us, is especially
what happened
for me.
When you got there? Tell me, were you staying at a lodge, motels, or a person's house?
Actually, it was a cabin. It was a cabin that we were able to stay at, and had a great connection on the cabin itself. Just amazing. And the landowner was able to give us the grand tour of what we had to hunt. But keep in mind, again, he had already laid everything out for us by providing us with all the information on Onyx and Google Earth. So we knew, and of course, Manny and Brett and Greg were out there last year, and all 3 of them harvested quality animals. So they knew what we were getting into. Plus, there was also some other land that was acquired as well. So just made it phenomenal for us. And, just the drive out there and being able to talk hunting and the skills and experience that come into it, and understanding your rifle and things like that. There's just so much that goes into it to make it a quality hunt. And harvesting an animal is icing on top of the cake for me. Just to be able to be with either these gentlemen, or I can go back to the day when I used to hunt with my dad and my brother, or my good friend Bob Sanders, who also was very instrumental in turning what I considered a hobby into a passion, because we used to just hunt. It was driving around and hunting. It was more of a party type hunting thing instead of this type of hunting. My dad took it serious, but I was too young at that time. And now I finally evolved, and with all the passion that came into it, it's just changed my life, and everything about it. And that's what makes it so fun, is to be able to be with those that are like you and are passionate about the great outdoors and about hunting and about the respect for the animal too. That is key for us as well.
So let's get into the hunt.
Well, this was phenomenal. I mean, how lucky am I to be out there on my first day with my boots on the ground. They dropped me off on a piece of land, and right in front of me, a big whitetail pops out, and just happened to be very lucky at this point. I tried to steady myself, and I didn't have as much time as I wanted on this first deer, and it took off and ran. It was everything that I had read about on how skittish these animals are. Never had an opportunity on it, and continued to hunt throughout the day. Took another, I'm going to go to a different direction with you, because I went to a different plot as well, different piece of property, and shows you how important it is to know your distance. Had some whitetail come out. We were able to use the wind to our advantage, and we really are watching the wind. Of course, as you know, when you hunt whitetail, is critical, or any animal. So we had the wind right on these 3 whitetail that were coming out, and we believed they had bedded down. So I started to put a stalk on them, and they jumped up. I pulled up, took a shot, because it was just kind of a rush type of a deal. And my buddy Brett is behind me. He goes, what range did you think that was? And I said, well, it's 250. He pulled up and ranged him. He said, you shot low. That was 350, something like that. It's like, that's how important it is to know your distance. So it was very critical.
Not just hunting in blinds or tree stands. You were just out spotting, stalking. I'm trying to understand the type of hunt you were on. So you were on private land. You weren't guided. So you were hunting, running, gunning, and seeing what you could stir up. Is that correct?
Exactly. On the first part of the morning, that's exactly what we did, to see what we could figure out and get a better understanding of the lay of the land for me, so that when they dropped me off at some place, I was comfortable there. I needed to be comfortable wherever I'm at, understanding my ins, understanding my outs, understanding the valleys, understanding the wind directions, trying to figure those out. And we studied those the night before. We were constantly watching on how the wind is going to play in to every piece of land that we had access to. Because if the wind is blowing out of the north, there's certain properties that just aren't going to be good to us, because we know where the plots are at. We know where the trees lie, the valleys in there. And it made it very critical for us to not go in there and disturb those animals that were bedded down in there if the wind wasn't right, if it wasn't in our favor.
So the day of the hunt, the day that you did harvest your buck, talk to us about that.
This was an evening hunt. We had already did some research. We went back, had a nice lunch, and regrouped with everybody, had a couple conversations about some of the missed opportunities, what we could have done better, what worked for us, and a few ideas on where to go throughout the evening. And I've never sat in a blind before for a deer. So I told them that I wanted to experience that. I wanted to be able to have an opportunity to catch an animal coming in at a little slower pace, maybe be able to study it a little bit longer, and make sure I'm going to get a quality animal. And that's exactly what we did. I hiked into a nice area, nice little valley, lots of trees, lots of aspens in there. It's surrounded by, of course, some cornfields, and sat in there. Probably sat there for maybe an hour or so, just studying everything. And I love that element of it. And just happened to be glassing around. One of my buddies had sent me a text message saying, hey, I'm surrounded by does. I passed on a small 8. I'm looking around going, I have one. There's one in the corner. And it was so fascinating to finally have one in my binoculars and be able to spend some time with it and study it. Text him back. I said, I don't know how quality it is. Let's see how close it comes in. At that point, it was probably sitting out maybe 200 yards and slowly started to creep its way in. And this guy had no rush, no hurry. I had plenty of time to study him, but he was stuck inside the trees, and I could just see the rack swaying back and forth. Finally, he started to come out, and I thought, well, okay, he's not very wide, but he is tall. But at that point, he's sitting probably at about 175 yards. And he went down into a little valley, and I lost track of him. I didn't know if he was going to try to skirt me from the left, but instead he crested that meadow. And right there he sat at about 100, 125 yards. And I had a chance to really study him, Bruce. And he had these amazing brow ties on him that just stuck out. They're about 5 inches long, decent width, a little bit outside of his ears overall. And I thought, this is perfect for my first whitetail. I like everything that I saw. I like the quality in him, and I pulled the trigger on him. 1 shot, 1 kill.
Attaboy. So that was pretty exciting. So taking that whole experience, what are the 3 things you'd like to share with somebody that's going after their first whitetail?
The main things is do your homework. Study Google Earth, study Onyx maps, spend some quality time either talking to members of the Division of Wildlife, the landowner, or other people that have been out to that area and determined, is this the spot for me? Is this the type of hunt that I'm capable of doing? I mean, like I said, it's different than Colorado. I mean, we put on 18 miles on a Colorado hunt, or 5 miles in one way with 60 pounds on our back. Out in Kansas, it's a little bit different. It's not nearly as difficult when you look at that, you know. The second thing for me that I take away is being able to study the species itself, know what kind of animal you want to harvest. What are your limits? If you're okay with a 4-pointer, take a 4-pointer if that's okay with you. But the guys I hunt with, like I said, they're world-class hunters. They have standards, and they've elevated my standards as well. So there's nothing wrong with leaving behind a 2-year-old deer to go next year to get better, just to say you harvest one. That's not what we do. We want to take a quality animal, a mature animal, and we show respect to that animal as well. The third thing for me, without a doubt, is the camaraderie. I mean, to be around people that have that same passion for the great outdoors, that's everything to me. That's amazing. And to be able to do that with people that have that much care for it. And keep in mind, this goes back to the skills of Manny and Brett, the skills that they've taught me, how to hone my shooting skills first and foremost, you know, from my gun to my scope, to my optics, to my rangefinder, everything. You have to have all that right. You have to have the right gear in there. There's so many different elements that could come into play. As you know, the weather out east is humid, and it's way different than Colorado. That cold is bone chilling. And if you're not ready for that, that can cause some major problems for you. So I sent you a copy of my gear list, which you saw is pretty thorough. Of course, that was more of a backpacking list. All I took out of that was my backpack. I mean, I still took the majority of everything that was on my gear list with me, because that's just how I hunt. I'm going to go prepared. I have to have everything right with me. So that's key. So once again, learn the lay of the land, know the animal and their habits, and the camaraderie. I mean, if I didn't harvest an animal, that's okay. That would have been fine with me. Just to be out in the field with these type of people that have that same passion that my father passed on to me, and my dad's still alive, thank God, and I still get to spend some quality time with him and my brother, and that's important. You know, being with family, being with friends, and being in the great outdoors. I can't tell you how thrilling that is to me, just to be out there. And you know, on the first day, I harvested my deer on the first day. So the rest of the hunt, I get a bird dog it for these guys.
Good.
So to me, that's key. I get to help them. I get to be in their ear and say, hey, that's sitting out there at, 300 or 400 yards. This is creeping in at 200. It doesn't look that big. It's not that quality. It's not what we want. Boy, that's huge for me. As you know, I'm an avid turkey hunter as well. I'd rather call in the turkeys instead of do the shooting, because I feel like the winner on this. And that's kind of the same thing that you get out of doing a whitetail hunt or an elk hunt or any type of hunt. When you get to give back to people, I think that's the most rewarding. And my friends Manny and Brett have given back to me with their knowledge, skills, and experience over the years. And I can't thank them enough for allowing me to have this opportunity to go out with them. And of course, they have Greg Brumfield with us, a world-class taxidermist, sitting beside us and able to assist us. Believe me, he was the first one to start caping all of these animals for us. He's so excited.
That's great.
He wants to do everything perfect for us. So I can't wait to pay respect to this animal and show it off once I get it back from Greg.
Well, thank you so much, Damon. I wish you and your family a Merry Christmas. And folks, that's going to wrap up 2018 success story. And Damon, I can't wait to see that on your wall.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.